Weeknd is back, and I'm not talking about Saturday or Sunday. I'm talking about one of the biggest pop stars in the world at the minute. The Weeknd's Blinding Lights is back up at #1, so we're going to take a look at it. But first, before we do, please hit the subscribe button, the bell icon for notifications, and like the video because we're going to do these every single week. So I'm a massive fan of The Weeknd. I have been since the first 3 mixtapes that he released and compiled into the Trilogy album. And this song, Blinding Lights, is no exception. It's a massive pop banger. It's got a real 80s feel to it. When the drums kick in, it almost sounds like Take On Me by a-ha. So we're going to look at it in depth. I'm going to show you the chords and some of the melodies to play. Also, regarding the songwriters on this song and the producers, Max Martin is at the helm again. I think he did I Can't Feel My Face for The Weeknd. But if you've not heard of Max Martin, then you need to do some serious songwriting and production homework because he is the guy. I'm not even going to go into detail on what he's done. Just Google him and you'll realise. There's also a rapper called Belly that I used to listen to, and I didn't hear from him for a while, and I've just seen on the credits that he's one of the songwriters on it, so it's also good to see that he's involved as well. There's also some other songwriters and producers on there as well in Max Martin's camp, I believe. So if you go on Spotify and you check the credits, you'll be able to see all their names on there. Okay, let's get straight into it. So basically what we've got at the beginning is an F minor chord. Then it goes to a C minor chord. Then an E flat major. And then a B major, or B flat major, sorry. Okay, so those 4 chords are literally the song. And you'll find that with a lot of pop songs, they just revolve the same chords because then it's easier to sing catchy melodies over the top of them. And sometimes simplicity is better. Okay, so the way that you play it is the important part. Some people might want to learn this as a singer-songwriter cover, basically. And if you're doing that, what I would probably do is put a capo on my 1st fret and use an acoustic guitar. I've only got my electric guitar here at the moment, so I'm going to play it on electric guitar. Now, if you put a capo on the 1st fret, the chords then are the E minor shape. Let me work this out. Then B minor, so you still have to do a bar chord. Then open D and open A. So there's 3 open chords and 1 bar chord if you use a capo on the 1st fret. If you don't and you just start on the F minor bar chord, every single chord is a bar chord. Now I'm going to play it like that, but I have just shown you those chords, so if you do want to use your capo, you can. So just to recap, that was E minor, just the open chord, B minor, so 2nd fret on the A string, bar chord, D major, open chord, and then A major, open chord. Okay, so what I tend to do is play it finger style, the chords anyway, not the melody. Now, I'll play the bass note with my thumb, and then I'll use my index finger like it's a pick. And you can hear I'm using my thumb to make like a muted kind of slap on the strings, and it's almost replicating the snare basically. And the upstrokes are basically just on my index finger, so slowly it's... Okay, so I do a downstroke after the 1st bass note, and then another bass note, and then an upstroke, and then it just carries on with that up, 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 up. So if you were strumming it like chords, so like, you would still keep your arm moving. So you want to always, when you're strumming chords, keep your arm moving at kind of the subdivision of what rhythms are playing. So it's probably a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and sort of vibe. So your arm wants to be doing that throughout, 1 and 2 and down and, or down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And we do the same thing with our finger if we're using that. So Okay, so I do the same thing for basically each chord with my thumb and my index finger, and I'm doing that slap on the snare as well. So that'd be on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, now the chord changes, in between them you do have certain notes that lead to the next chord, which are really, really cool, and they make the chord progression, in my opinion. So it happens on the E flat major. So that leading kind of riff there. Da, da, da. Okay, so that's 7 on the A string, sorry, 6 on the A string and 8 on the A string. And they come on the offbeat just before you change the chord, and it pushes that B major chord as well. So you get the rhythm. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can, as you kind of push that B major chord in, you can come back down on it on the 1 like I did there. So the with my thumb. Okay. All right, and then the next final part of that chord progression, or the leading part, is going back down to your F minor. So again, it's an offbeat sort of thing. So and it ends on the F the same way it does on that B major. So you've got, so you can see my upstrokes on the index finger. Up, 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 down. So down, up, 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 down, and then land on that F minor. Okay, so you can have a play around with that. You don't have to do it with your fingers. You could do it with the chords as well, with the chords, with the pick. And sorry, when you're leading down that last riff, you can do it as single notes if you want. I do it as kind of power chords, so I'm keeping that frame for my bar chords when I get down to them. Okay, so basically that's the chords. And like I say, you can use a capo or you can do them as bar chords. We're going to look at the lead on top of it as well. So I've recorded it on my looper. I'm going to show you some improvisation later on when I explain the key. But for now, I don't want to bore you. Those of you that don't know about modes and things like that, I'd rather show you the melodies and kind of what you came here for first. And then at the end, I will explain how this chord progression is kind of modal and what you can do about that for those that want to know that. Anyway, so if you just kind of think of this as C minor pentatonic, so, or E flat major. And then you can use that scale, or you could use natural minor as well. And I'm going to be sticking around in that first shape for the melody. So I'm going to show you the melody over the top of the chords. You've seen it on the video earlier, but I think I should have, yeah, I got the chord progression looped already. Okay, so the lick kind of starts when that comes in at the end of the phrase. So he starts here on the 11th fret of the B string and then goes down to the 8th on the G string, and then he'll slide, or actually I tend to hammer on to the 10 on the G string. So, and that holds for quite a while, so you might want to put some vibrato on it, and then slide up to the 12th fret on the G string, and then back down with a grace note slide to the 8, and pull off to, sorry, to the 10, slide to the 10, and then pull off to the 8. So, and we're going to hit that 8 again, 10 on the D string, back up to the 8 on the G string, and then a staccato note on the 10. So it is a bit of a weird phrase, but that's how he sings. He's got that real staccato sort of, well, nice and smooth, and then staccato, so very rhythmic, nice phrasing. So just slowly, that's... So you'll notice I slid when I said I was going to hammer on. So I do change that every time, really. It's kind of how I'm feeling at the time, whether I want to hammer it or whether I want to slide it. But you want to kind of keep those fingers in place so that when it comes back, you're in that box. Okay, so the next part plays an 8 again on the G string just before you start the catchy bit. So 11 on the B string. And it's basically running down that pentatonic scale. It goes 11, 8, 10, 8. And again. So the last one, the 8, he slides to the 10 and then holds it for a bit, I think like a beat and a half, and then an upstroke staccato note on that 10 again, so cutting it off. So. Okay, so really, really cool lick to play over those chords. Now, I've obviously played it earlier on the close-up shot that you saw, so you can hear it over the top of that as well. But I'll show you the synth melody as well. So it's very similar, it's just the beginning that's changed slightly. So he goes. So he's 10 on the G string. Twice, nice and staccato cut off. 8 on the G string. And he goes 8, 10, and then 8 on the B string. And then we jump down to the D string, 10, and then 8 on the G string again. So. Does that twice. And then the end lick is the same as the chorus. But he keeps it straight rather than sliding into that 10. He just puts the 10 on the 1 at the end. Okay, so hopefully that helped in terms of learning the chord progression and being able to play along with the song and even throwing the melodies in there as well. I'm going to do another close-up shot now of me improvising over the chord progression so you can see those scales in action. So C minor pentatonic, C natural minor, and then I'll throw some blues in as well. Okay, and then if you're into your modes and some heavier kind of theory, stick around because I'm going to talk about how modes fit into this song. Okay, so those of you that are into your modes, we can talk about this chord progression because it's quite interesting. You'll probably notice that I said that we can use our C minor or E flat major scales to improvise and play these melodies, but our first chord is an F minor. Okay, so technically if we think of ourselves as in the key of E flat major, I don't know how familiar everyone is with the major, minor, minor, major, major, minor diminished pattern, but that's basically harmonizing the major scale, and it's the order that those chords should come in any major key basically. And the 6th note is your relative minor. So if we're in a minor key, it shares exactly the same notes. Same as how if I start on any of these other notes in the key, it's the same notes, but it's a different mode, okay? So basically by us starting on the F minor, it makes the chord progression modal. Okay, and F is actually the 2nd chord in that chord progression. So E flat major is the 1, so that would be Ionian mode, and then F minor is the 2, so that would actually be Dorian mode. Now, a lot of people learn kind of the Dorian mode as a brand new scale. I don't really teach that. I tend to think of everything in natural minor because I know all of my 5 shapes of the natural minor really, really well, and I really like soloing in those shapes. So I like to think of everything else related to that. And like I said earlier with modes, it's all the same notes. It's just starting on a different note. So you may have learned kind of the intervallic structure of the major scale. So you've got tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So that's basically, say we're in C, C to D is a tone, D to E is a tone, E to F is a semitone. So you might be thinking, if you've not learnt modes before, why don't these scales sound the same if they're exactly the same notes? And it all depends on your starting and ending chord, kind of where your home is in the song. And if I'm starting on a different note in that structure, it shifts everything along. Well, the notes shift along, the tone, tone, semitone thing stays the same. So if now I start on the second note, it's going to be tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, tone. Okay, so everything kind of moves differently and your intervals are different. So your actual scale now is different intervals. Okay, so for example, this F Dorian is a minor mode because it lands on a minor chord in that key. And if I play it like a natural minor scale and just think what notes are changing compared to a natural minor. So it's the sixth note in the scale is turned into a major six. So all the Dorian mode is a minor scale with a major six in it. Okay, and if I start it from C and do my natural minor, I think of it as exactly the same thing, but just start on F instead. Okay, so you can tell from that it doesn't sound the same. It's landing on a different note and it sounds finished still, but that's because of the chord we've landed on and the kind of order of those chords in that song. Okay, so I hope that's cleared some stuff up as well about the key signature and about what mode it's in. And you can kind of have some fun with that song as a backing track for you soloing as well now. So if you put the song on, you can kind of think, right, F Dorian, I'm going to have a play around with that. All right? Guys, thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. We've done 2 of these already. The first one was Billie Eilish, No Time to Die from the new James Bond film. So check that out if you haven't seen it. It will pop up at the end of this video. And we're going to do them every single week, each time the number 1 is announced. So please check in next week, hit subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.